With Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, all 65 million viewers got what we deserved. Arlington, Texas. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. That Maya Angelou adage applies perfectly to the predictably farcical fight millions worldwide witnessed from AT&T Stadium on Friday night. We got from this ill-conceived, circus-like clash of generations generally what we should have expected. To call Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson a glorified sparring session is insulting to those who actually take sparring seriously. This was more a shrewd, 27-year-old businessman in the heart of his physical prime acknowledging almost immediately that an opponent approaching 60 had no business being in a boxing ring with him. If you think Paul wasn't well aware of this high probability long before he fought the legendary former heavyweight champion, you haven't been paying nearly enough attention to Paul's progression from novice novelty act to cash-grabbing global superstar. Paul and his business partner, MVP Promotions co-founder Nakisa Bidarian, chose Tyson as his opponent for this Netflix fight. Paul's company first secured in November 2023 because they uniquely understood that a reinvented Tyson's mass appeal trumped any physical limitations Tyson would have had as a 58-year-old opponent who hadn't boxed in an official fight since June 2005. Tyson was willingly complicit, mind you, in agreeing to modified rules and inevitable embarrassment on the grandest stage. They fought 8 two-minute rounds and wore 14-ounce gloves, which had more padding than the typical 10-ounce gloves worn for heavyweight fights. Even those concessions weren't enough to help Tyson make their boring bout remotely competitive. Why this surprised even the millions of casual boxing observers who watched and injured Tyson nibble on his gloves more than he threw punches is absolutely baffling. And 2005 Tyson, then 38, very specifically told the whole world after he quit on his stool against gigantic Irish underdog Kevin McBride that the ferocity required of prizefighters wasn't in his heart anymore. The youngest heavyweight champion in this sport's storied history was an emotionally and physically beaten man, unable 19 years ago to properly prepare to defeat even the type of pedestrian opponent he would have obliterated during his renowned reign as the baddest man on the planet. One of the most complicated, fascinating figures in American sports history simply did it back then because he needed the money. That's the same sad reason why Tyson fought Danny Williams, who knocked him out in the 4th round 10 months before McBride beat him, and Lennox Lewis, who pummeled him 3 years prior to the unheralded McBride ending his career, and so many other opponents after he was released from prison in March 1995. The Brooklyn native spent a significant portion of his celebrated career playing a role he was no longer equipped to fulfill. He begrudgingly did it again Friday night. This time, his antagonistic accomplice promised a real fight, only to admit afterward that he carried Tyson through the back end of their abbreviated bout because he didn't want to hurt a wildly popular opponent 31 years his senior. There was a point where, I was just like, okay, he's not really engaging back. And so, I don't know if he's tired or whatever, Paul surprisingly stated at his post-fight news conference. And I could just tell his age was showing a little bit. And I just have so much respect for him and that violence war thing between us, after he slapped me I wanted to, be aggressive and take him down, knock him out and all that stuff. But that kinda went away as the rounds went on. One could consider this a noble act of compassion from Paul, if not for the infuriating fact that it is precisely why their fight never should have been scheduled. Paul and Tyson aren't the only ones to blame for foisting such ridiculousness on the paying public. Those that run the regulatory agency that approved Paul Tyson as an official fight, the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, should be put on notice as well. Yes, it was an almost incomparably marketable mismatch that made plenty of money for the state of Texas through various taxes on the event, as well as tourism and other revenue generated for the local economy because it was attended by a crowd in excess of 72,000. That doesn't mean government agencies that exist to protect the health and safety of fighters, as well as the paying public's best interests, should approve anything pitched by audacious, masterful promoters much more concerned with appearances and profits than legitimate competition. One could consider this a noble act of compassion from Paul, if not for the infuriating fact that it is precisely why their fight never should have been scheduled. Paul, 11-1 with 7 knockouts, didn't simply admit he carried Tyson to the final bell. The Disney actor turned social media superstar turned prizefighter practically confessed that everything he told the public prior to fighting Tyson 50-7 with 44 knockouts, 2NC, was almost as much scripted entertainment as the WWE work his older brother carries out in a much more acceptable forum. I think so, but people just love to hate me, Jake Paul said when asked during his post-fight news conference if consumers should start accepting him for what he is. I'm easy to hate, and I intentionally say things to make people hate me. Play the heel. I feed into that and, that's just what I like to do. And that's what entertainment is. And at the end of the day, I started as a 17-year-old in Los Angeles, in the entertainment business. But I've been in this sport for 4.5 years and have been so active, doing every event, taking any fight possible. So, if you want to see more, or this challenge, or fight this person, whatever it is, my response is just give it a couple more months because I'm going to accomplish more things in just a matter of months. And I plan on doing everything in this sport that there is to be done. A couple minutes later, Paul mapped out a path toward a cruiserweight world title. He thinks he can win within 24 months. To that end, he did knock out 2 cruiserweights with similar experience, Andre August and Ryan Borland, in back-to-back lower-profile fights during an active 2.5-month span from last December 15th to March 2nd. Nothing he has done since he beat Borland indicates, however, that Paul will resume his pursuit of first becoming a ranked cruiserweight contender. And frankly, why would he? Paul reportedly earned more than $40 million for facing a former heavyweight champion, one could argue was washed up nearly 30 years ago. According to a press release issued Saturday morning, approximately 65 million of Netflix's 283 million subscribers worldwide watched Paul enable Tyson to embarrass himself hopefully one last time for a massive payday. Even millions of those who knew better tuned in out of curiosity. Most of them simply wanted to see Tyson clip Paul with the type of pulverizing punch that would finally shut up one of the sport's spectacular trash talkers. They instead watched a shell of Tyson. Paul won't be able to find another easy mark more popular than Tyson. However you feel about Paul's progress or lack thereof, there is no denying that he is a wildly successful salesman strongly supported by a legion of loyalists who seemingly could not care less how many retired or otherwise unacceptably old opponents he fights.